Good morning, good afternoon. Today we'll go through the chapter line by line, a very fast run through, and I hope all of you have already read this. It's written by Alphonse Daudet. I've already given you the historical context. It's after the Franco-Prussian War. Prussians have taken over the provinces of France, and this Alsace has also been taken over by Prussia, and this is where the story is happening. So we have our protagonist, Franz. His name is Franz, and he's going to school. He's going to school and he's scared of Mr. M. Hamill. Mr. M. Hamill. Remember, Mr. M. Hamill. He's scared of him. I hate these slow computers. They're so slow. Hate them. So I started for school very late that morning. It was in a great dread of a scolding, especially because Mr. M. Hamill had said that he would question us on participles, and I did not know the first word about them. For a moment, I thought of running away, just like any other kid. If you've not done your homework, if you're not prepared for anything, if you're going for a test, you're not prepared well, the first thought that comes to your mind is that you should not go to school. You should run away and go somewhere else, safer, somewhere else more lively and better, where you would like to spend your time. So he saw the birds chirping and he saw the Prussian soldiers drilling, and this was much more tempting than any other lesson on participle or school classroom. When I passed the town hall, so there is a town hall in that town, the town of Alsace. Town hall is the center of the town, where there is a bulletin board. So for the last 2 years, all the official documents that come or the notices that come are placed in that on that listed on that bulletin board. For the people of Alsace, only bad news, okay, was coming on that bulletin board because they were losing everything. So all the news of the lost battles, the draft, and the orders of the commanding officers were coming on that bulletin board. So it was a place of bad news for them. So they did not pay much attention, did not eagerly wait to read the bulletin board. The lost battles, as I've told you before, there were various battles in that Franco-Prussian War, the Battle of Sedan, the Siege of Paris. So the news of all those battles used to come on that bulletin board. The draft is basically when the soldiers are drafted for the army. So when there's a war, it's not just the soldiers who are already enlisted that will fight on the war front. Everybody who is capable of fighting a war, everybody who is capable of picking up a weapon is enlisted in the army because they need more and more men. The news of the draft would come on that bulletin board, and all the orders of the commanding officers would also come there. And that led Franz to think that what can be the matter now. So he was curious that way, but he was not really looking forward to reading what was on the bulletin board because number one, he was getting late, and number two, it was usually a bad news. Then he hurried as fast as he could because he was getting late, and he was told by a blacksmith who was reading the bulletin that don't go fast, Bob. Bob is child. You'll get to your school in plenty of time. Now this blacksmith, his name is Watcher. He's reading the bulletin board, and obviously there is the news of French being revoked as the language of that place and to be taken over by German, right? So he's reading that and he knows that Franz, when he will go to school today, this will be his last lesson. So he's just saying, don't worry, your school is basically useless now. You'll get to your school in plenty of time now. Then I thought he was making fun of me and reached Mr. M. Hamill's little garden all out of breath. Usually, when school began, there was a great bustle which could be heard out in the street, the opening and closing of desks, Lessons repeated in unison, very loud with our hands over our ears to understand better, and the teacher's great ruler rapping on the table. But now it was also still. So if you go in that lane of Babyland English High School while the school is on, you will hear everything. You will hear a great bustle. You will hear people shouting. You will hear students repeating their lessons in unison, opening, closing of desks. You will also hear teachers rapping their ruler. If their rulers are not allowed to these days, so teachers just rap. Rap basically means hit the desks. They wrap the tables and the desks these days with a duster, with a wooden duster, so that the students can pay attention if they're not. But now it was also still, but everything was different on that particular day. There was no sound, there was no hustle bustle. I had counted on the commotion to get to my desk without being seen, so he was thinking that I will slide in that commotion that is there in the school, but everything was still on that particular day. That day was as quiet as a Sunday morning. Through the window, I saw my classmates. So, through the window, while he was coming in, he saw his classmates already in their places. Mr. M. Hamill was walking up and down with his terrible iron ruler under his arm. I had to open the door and go in before everybody. You can imagine how I blushed and how frightened I was. So if you have, most of you have experienced this. If you come late and the class is already going on, you have to actually open the door and you have everybody's attention while you are coming in. So Franz was also in the same position. But nothing happened. But something different was the scene on that particular day. Nothing happened to Franz. Mr. M. Hamill did not even scold him for coming late. Mr. M. Hamill saw me and said very kindly, "Go to your place quickly, little Franz. We were beginning just without you. We were beginning without you. So go to your place now, fast." I jumped over the bench and sat down at my desk. Not till then, when I had got a little over my fright, did I see that our teacher had on his beautiful green coat, his frilled, oh Lord, his frilled shirt, and the little black silk cap all embroidered that he never wore except on inspection days and prize days. So, as he was settling down in his seat, he did not notice that Mr. M. Hamill was dressed in his best clothing. Okay, he had his coat on, he had his frilled shirt on, he had his black silk cap on. Okay, he wore all these things only on inspection and prize days. That means days that were important. So definitely this particular day is also important. Then besides, the whole school seemed so strange and solemn. But the thing that surprised me the most was to see on the back benches that were always empty the village people sitting quietly like ourselves. He also saw that village people, normal village people, were sitting in the back benches. So you would also be surprised if you go and see people of Karimganj sitting on the back benches when you enter your class, right? So there was the old Hauser. Okay, Hauser is basically the name of a person, and it might also refer to a builder or a mason. Okay, who built houses in Germany. With his three-cornered hat, he was he had a three-corner hat on. The former mayor and the former postmaster, and several others besides. So there were so many people from various ranks sitting in the classroom on that particular day. Everybody looked sad, and Hauser had brought an old primer thumbed at the edges. Primer is basically an elementary textbook, okay, and he had brought that with him. He was thumbed at the edges, meaning it was very used, it was very old, and as you turn the pages of a book again and again and again and again, so it becomes curved at the edges. So that is called being thumbed at the edges. And he held it open on his knees, and his great spectacles lying across the pages. So his spectacles were on the pages of his elementary textbook that he had brought with him. While I was wondering about it all, M. Hamill mounted his chair and in the same grave and gentle tone which he had used to me, said, So now he's settling down. Mr. M. Hamel sat in his chair and said these words. These are very important, very, very important. My children, this is the last lesson I shall give you. The order has come from Berlin to teach only German in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. The new master comes tomorrow. This is your last French lesson. I want you to be very attentive. What a thunderclap these words were to me. So he did not expect this. He was not expecting this. Anything could have happened, but not this. He did not expect this. It's out of blue. Came out of the blue for me. Friends. Oh, the wretches. That was what they had put up on the town hall. So they had put up this news that French was to be discontinued. My last French lesson? Why? I hardly knew how to write. I should never learn anymore. I must stop there then. Oh, how sorry I was for not learning my lessons, for seeking birds' eggs, or going sliding on the Saar. My books, they had seemed such a nuisance a while ago, so heavy to carry. My grammar and my history of the saints were old friends now that I couldn't give up. And M. Hamill too. The idea that he was going away, that I thought I should never see him again, made me forget all about his ruler and how cranky he was. So as soon as you lose something, you realize how important that is, right? You realize the importance of that thing that you were just taking for granted. Same is the case with France. He's everything that relates to his school, his books, okay, books of grammar and history, and especially Mr. M. Hamill, he is beginning to see the importance of all those things, and he's thinking, how can he ever part with those things? Now he comes to think of Mr. M. Hamill and his condition. Poor man! It was in honor of his last lesson that he had put on his fine Sunday clothes, and now I understood why the old men of the village were sitting there in the back of the room. It was because they were sorry, too, that they had not gone to school more. It was their way of thanking our master for his 40 years of faithful service and of showing their respect for the country that was theirs no more. So Mr. M. Hamill, it is obviously a big day for him. He will not be teaching them anymore. It was his last French lesson. That is why he was in his best clothing. And the people, the villagers, had come there as a sign of solidarity, as a tribute for the service Mr. M. Hamill had given the people of Alsace for the past 40 years. And it was their way of thanking them. It was also their way of showing their nationalism and showing that their culture was important to them, because it was their language after all, French. Okay, so language, we'll talk about the themes later. So here, pay attention to these words, right? While I was thinking of all this, I heard my name called. It was my turn to recite. What would I not have given to be able to say that dreadful rule for the participle all through, very loud and clear and without one mistake. So now he's regretting. This is a sign of regret, that I would have given everything in the world to recite that rule of participles which Mr. M. Hamill had asked me right now, because he's feeling very, very sad that it is the last lesson. But I got mixed up on the first words and stood there, holding on to my desk, my heart beating and not daring to look up. So this is the sign of somebody who is dejected, who is very, very sad that he is not being able to do what he's asked to do, and he's again, it is a tumultuous occasion for him. He's being overcome with emotions because he doesn't want to leave that French class anymore, and earlier he was not taking that particular class seriously. Now he's sad. He has nothing to do because he doesn't know the rules, so he's just standing there holding his desk and not daring to look up. I heard M. Hamill say to me, I won't scold you, little Franz. You must feel bad enough. See how it is. Every day we have said to ourselves, bah, I have plenty of time. I'll learn it tomorrow. And now you see where we've come out? Ah, that's the great trouble with Alsace. She puts off learning till tomorrow. Now those fellows out there will have the right to say to you, how is it you pretend to be Frenchmen and yet you cannot neither speak nor write your own language. But you are not the worst, poor little friends. We have all a great deal to reproach ourselves with. So now Mr. M. Hamill is consoling him in a way, saying that you don't need to just blame yourself, friends. It's all of us. But the consequence is that these Germans will be able to tell you on your face that you are so proud of your language, you're so proud of being French, but yet you cannot even speak nor write your own. पूरा फ्लो बिगाड़ देते हैं सॉफ्टवेयर घटिया. Neither speak nor write your own language, but you're not the worst, poor little friends. We've all a great deal to reproach ourselves with. Your parents were not anxious enough to have you learn. Now he's counting the various people who were party to this, who were party means who were a part of this secondary or less importance that they gave to the French lessons. So he's telling everybody's name, everybody who is responsible. It's not just France. Your parents were not anxious enough to have you learn. So your parents were also not interested. They preferred to put you to work on a farm or at the mills so as to have a little more money. And I've been to blame also. Have I not often sent you to water my flowers instead of learning your lessons? And when I wanted to go fishing, did I not just give you a holiday? So he's telling everything that the parents did not want you to learn. They were not that eager to send you to school every day. They instead were sending you to a farm and get a little more money. And Mr. M. Hamill also, whenever he wanted to go fishing, he used to give them a holiday. Then, from one thing to another, Mr. M. Hamill went on to talk of the French language, saying it was the most beautiful language in the world, the clearest, the most logical, that we must guard it amongst us and never forget it, because when people are enslaved, as long as they hold fast to their language, it is as if they hold the key to their prison. These are very, very important lines. Okay, whatever he's saying is very, very important. Imagine their situation. How can he tell those people that French, what importance French had in their life? Okay, the language had in their life. So he's saying that it is the most beautiful language in the world, the most clearest, okay, most logical, and it is not just this technicality that French is good. It is also because it is your native language, and till you hold on to your language, you hold on to your culture, you hold on to your identity, and it is just like having the key to the prison that they are being put in of linguistic chauvinism, where another language is being shoved upon them and is being told that that language is better. So if they are to get out of that prison of linguistic chauvinism, they need to hold fast to their language. They need to they need to be with their language. They need to know the importance of their language. Then he opened a grammar and read us our lesson. So then Mr. M. Hamill did not just give a lecture about how French was the best language. He started teaching just like a dedicated teacher. And he opened a grammar lesson and read us our lessons. I was amazed to see how well I understood it. So now things are changed. The tables are turned. France was paying attention. It's just like that. Okay, if you want to know something yourself, right? So you pay attention and then you understand everything. YouTube videos, okay, if you see in the class you don't understand anything, right? And then you go to YouTube and you understand everything. There is a difference there. There is a difference of purpose. In the class, your purpose might not be to understand. Okay, you're thinking this is a routine that I have to follow. I have to sit in the class, I have to listen, I have to be quiet, and this class will end, and another teacher will come, that class will end, I have to go back. And then when your exams are approaching, your purpose is to understand things because you have to get marks in the exam. So now you search with a purpose on YouTube that okay, what is this concept all about? Then you listen to that person saying the same thing the teacher was saying in the class, but your purpose is different this time, so you listen closely and you understand it, right? That is the same thing happening with France. All he said seemed so easy, so easy. I think too that I had never listened so carefully, and that he had never explained everything with so much patience. So there's a difference in everybody's attitude. It seemed almost as if the poor man wanted to give us all he knew before going away, and to put it all into our heads at one stroke. So if Mr. M. Hamill had the power to do that, he would have done that, because he would do anything for those people to know French. After the grammar, we had a lesson in writing. That day, M. Hamill had new copies for us written in beautiful round hand. So in those schools, uh, just a second. Uh, so in those schools, they give you notebooks and stationery in foreign countries. So Mr. M. Hamill had bought new copies for them, and it was a handwriting class. France Alsace was written on top of in cursive in round letters. Okay, beautiful round hand. So it was written like this, probably like that, right? And whatever. France Alsace. My handwriting is not that good, but yeah, that was how it was written. France Alsace, France Alsace. So they had to just copy that. So so look at it as a piece of paper. This imagery you need to understand. So here it's written. Do we have a better place? Yeah, here. So here it's written France, Alsace, France, Alsace. So now everybody is holding that on their desk. So this is a piece of paper. Let's say this is a table, right? I know I'm doing a bad job at it, but try to bear with me. So this is a table, and this is a rod that he's referring to, and so France Alsace is written here. So all this looks like little flags floating everywhere in the school. So now every symbol that relates to France and them being French was now important. So now he's looking at that particular, at those copies where France has written as little flags everywhere in the schoolroom, hung from the rod at the top of our desks. So the top of this is the desk, right? This is a desk, and there is a piece of paper. So France Alsace is written here. So this was kind of a flag. Okay, this paper looked like a flag. This is an imagery, and it was hung from the rod at the top of our desks. You ought to have seen how everyone set to work and how quiet it was. The only sound was the scratching of the pen over the paper. Once some beetles flew in, but nobody paid any attention to them, not even the littlest ones, who worked right on tracing their fish hooks. What are fish hooks? So this is F. So if you write F, this is a fish hook, right? Fish hook is like this, and this is also like that. So this is a fish hook in writing, in cursive, in calligraphy. So they were writing France, so this F would be a fish hook. So in their fish hook, as if that was French too. On the roof, the pigeons cooed very lowly, and I thought to myself, very important lines, very important. Questions are asked. So this is where the thematic approach to the lesson comes in. While they were writing in cursive in their notebooks, he thought to himself, when he heard the pigeons coo, that will they make them sing in German, even the pigeons? Oh God, these lines. Will they make them sing in German, even the pigeons? So he's raising a very pertinent question here. That will they even make can they make these pigeons also sing in German? So because they are enforcing, so they're basically trying to change, okay, enforce their own culture and take away somebody else's identity. Can they do that with pigeons? He's basically giving us a contrast of the situation they are in. Whenever I looked up from my writing, I saw M. Hamill sitting motionless in his chair. So while he was writing, once he looked up, he saw what Mr. M. Hamill was doing. Mr. M. Hamill was sitting motionless in his chair and gazing first at one thing, then at another. So Mr. M. Hamill was just looking at one thing after another, and he was trying to get it all in, trying to remember what his schoolroom is like, because he will not be coming back here anymore. To fix in his mind just how everything looked in that little room. Fancy. For 40 years, he'd been there in the same place with his garden outside the window and his class in front of him.